All right, let's talk about Singapore's property market. It's one of the most fascinating and, yeah, most expensive in the entire world. But what's really interesting is that it's not just shaped by money and demand. There's this one single, super powerful government policy that's basically the ultimate gatekeeper for the whole thing. And that really gets us to the big question here, doesn't it? Is this policy actually a shield to protect local homebuyers, or is it more like a sword aimed right at property investors? As you'll see, the answer reveals this is a very deliberate, very high-stakes game. And yep, there are clear winners and clear losers. So before we can figure out who wins and who loses, we gotta understand the rules of the game. And right at the heart of it all is this one powerful acronym, ABSD. Okay, so what is it? The Additional Buyer's Stamp Duty, or ABSD for short, is pretty much what it says on the tin. It's an extra tax you pay when you buy a home. But, and this is the key part, it's not some simple flat tax. Nope. It's this really sophisticated, layered system that's designed to, surgically target different kinds of buyers. When the government rolled this out way back in 2011, they had two really clear goals. First, they wanted to stop a dangerous property bubble from forming. And second, they wanted to make sure that housing was really for Singaporeans who needed a place to live, not just for investors chasing their next big payday. And get this, the policy hasn't just sat there. Just look at how it's ramped up for foreign buyers. It started at 10% back in 2011. Then it climbs to 15, then 20, then it jumps to 30%, and then, boom, in 2023, it doubles to a mind-boggling 60%. This shows you it's not some temporary little fix. It's a very clear, very deliberate strategy of building a higher and higher wall around the market, year after year. Okay, so if the government's busy building all these walls, who are they trying to protect? Well, that brings us to the people who are meant to benefit the most from this whole system, the Singaporean first-time homebuyer. So what's their ultimate advantage in this game? It all comes down to this one single powerful number, 0. For a Singaporean citizen buying their very first home, the ABSD they pay is 0. Zilch. Nada. And that's not just a minor detail. It's literally the cornerstone of the entire policy. It creates this totally tax-free fast lane just for them. I mean, think about what that really means. That 0% rate, it's not just some nice little discount. It fundamentally splits the path of a first-time owner from the path of an investor. Right from day one, you are on two completely separate tracks. But this protection, it has this really fascinating side effect. People call it the affordability cliff. See, the jump from your tax-free first property to buying a second one is massive. Suddenly, a 20% tax bill just appears out of thin air. So if you know that, what's the smart move? Well, for a first-time buyer, it's to stretch and buy the biggest, best home you can possibly afford from the get-go. Because trying to upgrade later, it's going to cost you a fortune in tax. All right, now let's hop over to the other side of that wall and see who's footing the bill for all this market stability. And this is where the policy really starts to bite for both local and foreign investors. Remember that crazy move in 2023 when the tax rate for foreigners just doubled overnight? That was meant to send a powerful message. So, what was the actual impact? What happened when the government dropped that financial bombshell on the market? The answer came in the form of this number, 60%. That's the tax rate a foreigner has to pay. Just let that sink in for a second. If you're buying a $2 million apartment, that is an extra $1.2 million in cash that you have to pay upfront as tax. At that point, it's not a cost anymore, right? It's a giant financial wall. And the impact? It was immediate. It was dramatic. In the year following that hike, condo purchases by foreigners just plummeted. They collapsed by 71%. The government didn't just cool the market, they basically hit the off switch on foreign demand. It just goes to show you how powerful this tool really is. The policy also creates this weird trap for people who already own investment properties in Singapore. It's called the lock-in effect. So imagine you own a second property. If you sell it, great, you've got cash. But the moment you want to buy another investment property, you're hit with that 20% tax. The price to get back in the game is so high, the smartest play is often just do nothing. Just hold on to what you've got. And what does that mean for the rest of us? Fewer properties for sale. So when you add all these different pressures together, you get one of the most fascinating results of the ABSD. It's basically split Singapore's property market into two totally different worlds, and they're moving at two completely different speeds. I mean, just look at the numbers here. The suburban market, which is mostly driven by those tax-shielded local homebuyers, prices there have shot up by 46% since 2019. Now, compare that to the prime luxury market, the old playground for foreign investors. That's only grown by 19%, less than half. The policy was designed to pick a winner, and boy, did the market listen. And it's not just the buyers who are feeling the squeeze. This policy puts property developers in a real bind. I mean, they're facing a massive 40% tax just to buy the land. Plus, they're on a super strict 5-year clock to sell every single unit they build. So when you're faced with that kind of risk, what are you going to do? You play it safe. You get cautious. You stick to smaller, less risky projects. And that can really slow down the whole process of urban renewal for the entire city. Okay, so we've looked at all the angles, the rules, the players, the impact. What's the final verdict in this high-stakes game? Let's break down who really came out on top and who didn't. All right, let's tally up the final score. The clear winners? No surprise, it's the Singaporean first-time homebuyers. They get a protected, more stable market to buy into. And of course, the government wins too. Now, the clear losers? Foreign investors, for sure. Also, any Singaporean who aspires to be a property investor. And as we saw, the developers who have to navigate all this risk. And then you've got this middle group, the existing property investors. It's a mixed bag for them, right? Their property's worth more, but they're kind of stuck, locked in, and unable to easily reinvest. Which brings us right back to that question we asked at the very beginning. Is this whole system designed to punish investors just to protect home buyers? And the answer, when you look at all the evidence, is a pretty clear and resounding yes. The ABSD is a system of deliberate choices, of trade-offs. It's built from the ground up to put homeowners first by making investment incredibly, almost prohibitively expensive. And that leaves us with one final, crucial question. After more than a decade of constant escalation, is this policy still just some temporary cooling measure, or has Singapore fundamentally and permanently rewritten the rules of its property market for good? Because all the evidence seems to suggest this is the new reality. Thanks for watching The Explainer.